There were times when I was really deep in those symptoms that I couldn't even feed myself. Some of the symptoms like nausea, dizziness, incredible heart rate. Some of you out there will recognize those symptoms already, and plus the fatigue and others. So I
Yeah.
was in a very low place mentally, emotionally, physically. And I was even making strategies, exit strategies, but by the time I figured anything out, I was too weak to have done anything. And I'm very, very glad and very grateful that I did not. And for anyone that thinks that they're too old for recovery, I would say I want you to really think hard about joining the program, because I was as far down as anybody can get. And I thought that I was going to be too old to enter the program. And so that took me a little bit of time before I decided that my life was still worth living and that I wanted to see whether or not I could get in this program. If it wasn't this program, there would have been another, but I am really glad I chose this one. And it has made a huge difference in just 7 to 8 months. So, please think about it. If you're at all unsure that this program can work, I'll tell you that it can. It
Mhm.
absolutely can.
How's it going, everybody? Miguel here from CFS Recovery. In this video, we have Karen, who has been crushing it at 66 years old. And she's come a very long way. Just less than a year ago, she was completely bedridden, as in completely bedridden. And today, less than a year later, she's out walking up to 4 miles at a time and even starting to ride her e-bike. So she's come a very long way. And, I've witnessed this journey. Uh, she's made tons and tons of progress. But Karen, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to everybody here?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Karen. I live in the Pacific Northwest. I'm usually a pretty active person. My husband and I like to travel, and I like to garden. I play music. I ride my bike. Um, I like to get out and enjoy life now that I'm retired.
Awesome. And I think this will be so powerful, especially for people in their late 50s, 60s, because you got this when, you were about 65 years old, right? And
Mhm.
for your life to go from up here just to like take a nosedive at that age, a lot of people, as we've seen online, they're like, I'm too old to recover, or it's too late, or my body it doesn't have the capacity to turn this around. So you've been able to do it, which has been remarkable. But rewinding the clock, how did this all start? Like, when did you get hit with all of these symptoms?
I had COVID for the first time, and I'd had several vaccines, but I had COVID in January of 2023, and I went through some really um, tough stuff in the first part of the year. We were traveling, but my brother's health was very poor, and I ended up flying to see him and take care of him for a while. And I just kept going and going and going, wondering why my health kept declining, my energy kept declining, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I ended up totally bedbound by May. I had seen several doctors for different causes. Nobody could come up with anything. I looked perfectly fine. And yet the energy went all the way down until I was bedbound and couldn't get up without severe symptoms.
Yeah. And I remember you were very, very bedbound. You had a call with Rochelle, and,
Mhm.
she was on our onboarding team, and she was saying, hey, there's this lady, Karen. Her husband is doing everything for her. They're going to hire a caregiver just to help her with meals and bathing and things like that. So, at one point you were having trouble even just eating and even just sitting up and washing your face. Right. So, you
Yeah, for this, there were times when I was really deep in those symptoms that I couldn't even feed myself. Some of the symptoms like nausea, dizziness, incredible heart rate. Some of you out there will recognize those symptoms already, and plus the fatigue and others. So I
Yeah.
was in a very low place mentally, emotionally, physically. And I was even making strategies, exit strategies, but by the time I figured anything out, I was too weak to have done anything. And I'm very, very glad and very grateful that I did not. And for anyone that thinks that they're too old for recovery, I would say I want you to really think hard about joining the program because I was as far down as anybody can get. And I thought that I was going to be too old to get to enter the program. And so that took me a little bit of time before I decided that my life was still worth living and that I wanted to see whether or not I could get in this program. If it wasn't this program, there would have been another, but I am really glad I chose this one. And it has made a huge difference in just 7 to 8 months. So, please think about it. If you're at all unsure that this program can work, I'll tell you that it can. It
Mhm.
absolutely can.
Yeah. And how far in were you into your illness when you found us? Like, were you completely bedridden when you came across our content?
So I got bedbound in May, but it was July before I went on YouTube, and it was not for CFS. One of your videos just happened to pop up on my screen, and I started reading some of your information that you give for free on YouTube, some of the videos that you've done there, and realized that it made a whole lot of sense for it all to be the vagal nerve and parts of the brain, the early parts of the brain. So
Mhm.
it was a couple of months, and I'm very glad I made myself the gift of entering the program on my birthday in summer,
Yeah.
um, and felt like I'm going to get my life back. I don't care what it takes.
Amazing. Amazing. And, leading up to you finding us, a lot of people go through this journey and this gauntlet, this merry-go-round of testing and seeing specialists. And they're trying everything they can to figure out what's even going on. So, what was that like for you? And what were the doctors saying with all this stuff going on?
So early in spring, I just thought part of this difficulty of mine was I had had IBS, irritable bowel. I'd had IBS before and it flared up again. So I contacted a clinic down in Seattle and went and saw the doctors there. And they started me out on a bunch of supplements, none of which really worked. Different diets did not work. Things just kept getting worse. I saw a specialist in Bellevue who recommended different things like IVs and different supplements, entirely different supplements, until I was probably on about 20 different pills. And then I saw my primary care physician who basically told me to get up and move around and uh, just to start lifting weights and get out of bed
Right.
and start walking around. He did not have the training. Most physicians don't understand that this is curable, that you can improve, and they don't receive a lot of training on it. Honestly, they don't. So there was a lot of discouragement there, but I wasn't going to give up.
Mhm.
I was just not going to give up.
Yeah. You've always had that fighter mentality too, and
So,
really just doing everything you can,
mhm,
doing whatever it takes to get better. So that's why I think when you came across these principles and frameworks and started working with our team, although it was a very rough start because you were in a very intense flare up
mhm.
for that first little bit in the program, you stuck to it. You stuck to the principles. And that's why you've been able to see progress. Kind of like it felt like it dipped in the beginning, but then it just shot up. So, for you, you came in, it was August of last year. Right now it's April. So this was about 8 or 9 months ago, right? And when
Mhm.
you came in, you were completely bedbound, even getting spoon fed and like even having difficulty sitting up in bed. I remember.
Yeah, I couldn't sit up to even watch the Zoom calls were too much
Yeah.
stimulus for me. It I kinda have to lay down there leaning up against my arm on the bed, and just kind of glance every now and then at the screen. It's just physically I couldn't handle that. I couldn't handle very bright light either. So I'd have the blinds down in the room, and I actually had the screen on the computer turned down as well.
Mhm. I remember that, and one of your big symptoms was light and sound sensitivity, right?
Mhm.
So, those calls were not easy to get through,
No.
and, it was definitely a struggle in the beginning. So, when you came in, what do you think the biggest mind shift was when you first came in, and what was that first mind shift for you? For some people, it happens in the first few weeks, some people, it's like the first couple months. What was that for
Yeah.
you?
It took it a while for me, honestly. It did
Yeah.
take a while because I was working through all these really big symptoms, and my teammates had already progressed farther than me, at which point I decided I'm not going to do any comparisons. My journey is going to be my own journey. And I think as soon as I was able to get through some of the big emotional symptoms that come along with CFS, and see that I was able to get out of bed and at that point just start making it to the bathroom. At that point, I knew that I was going to start improving just to get me out of the bed, which is what I strive for at the first, knowing as a retired nurse that I needed to be moving around, as my doctor said, but not in the time frame that he said it.
Mhm.
So I think for me, that mindset was I'm seeing my teammates improving, and I'm finally able to get out of this bed. And that for me said yes.
Yeah, and sometimes,
Mhm.
like, that's really all that's needed to have that initial mind shift of seeing that, wow, okay, I may not be progressing super fast, but at least something is improving. Something is moving in the right direction. So to be able to start moving around again and even having mindset wins, just feeling like you're not in as deep of a mental hole, it's almost like reaching a new milestone in recovery. Then you're on to the next milestone, but it's proof that things are working. So, people hear this and they're saying, wow, okay, Karen, so you were bedridden, then you just started moving again. But why don't you speak more on that, that first little bit, and
Yeah.
how hard that was and what the
Yeah,
reality of that was?
I didn't just leap out of bed and start running around the house. And this is one point I want to make too, because this is something that did help me become more mobile and has helped me. Not everybody does well in tracking things, and I would in general urge people not to track things, especially if you've been a person who um, gets upset when they don't meet those specific goals or they get too anxious around doing that. But for me, being able to track how far I walked in the house was actually a way to congratulate myself, even on small victories, even getting to where I was able to just go to the bathroom twice a day, get out of the bed and go. And then pretty soon that was 4 times a day. Pretty soon that was however many times a day. And then I didn't have to worry about it. And then I started accumulating enough steps to where I knew I could get to my piano, and which was amazing. And I could get to the table to eat dinner with my husband. So for me, tracking those little tiny steps absolutely was the way to go. And it may not be for everybody, but that was my journey.
Mhm.
And seeing myself being able to walk downstairs over time, but this is through several months that
Mhm.
I built up slowly and slowly and slowly. It was no miracle thing of just being able to leap out of bed and go.
Yeah.
Um, and finally being able to walk to get the mail, that was a win. And being able to walk my first mile and walk in what is our anacortes forest lands here. um, Walking in the forest lands was just an amazing win for me.
Yeah.
Very, very positive and kept me going.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
there were a lot of little bitty steps, and I think one of the other things too is at some certain point, we all have to let go of some of that fear. You have to let go, which is just not easy, especially when you think you're going to be hit with big symptoms. But you have to let go and say, I'm going to do this anyway. And this is not outside the realm of possibility for me to increase my walking 10% or to be able to now be able to stand up for 30 minutes. I should be able to take a shower. You have to put those fears aside, and say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it anyway, because this is what it's going to take to get me through it.
Yeah. And for you, how did you put that fear aside? Because a lot of people, I know for me, it was I knew I had the safety net of the science. The way my doctor described it to me, he was like, you're going to have adjustment periods, but how you respond to it, if you respond well, you'll actually level up. If you don't respond well,
Mhm.
this is where you'll stay in the cycle. So I was able to fall back on that knowledge versus just having blind faith of thinking, no, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. I had this kind of information to fall back on. So for you, is that something that helped you overcome the fear, or what was it for you that helped you let go of that fear?
As far as fear goes, my support system, which is another reason I joined this program, my support folks in my team gave me all sorts of encouragement for it. And I just figured if I was strong enough, as one of my teammates reminded me, if I was strong enough in my mid 30s to go back to school and become a nurse, which was hard work, very, very hard work. If I was strong enough to do that and several other things I've done in my life, then I'm strong enough to do this. And if I got through those major symptoms and I didn't go swirling down in that drain hole of depression, um, I just told myself over and over and over, even though I didn't feel it, the affirmations of I am brave, I am strong, and I am recovering. And anytime that anxiety came up, I pulled those words up and said, I am brave, I am strong, I am going to recover. And that's helped. I know it's an odd thing, but those are affirmations. And said consistently, I started out saying them several times a day because that was when I was still in bed.
Hmm.
And I still say some of that when I feel anxiety raise, as it still does. Life is life. So that's kind of just pulled out some kind of courage in me and just
Hmm.
said, if this
Yeah.
is what it takes, this is what it takes.
Absolutely, and that's kind of the same mindset I had, I knew it would be a bit of a battle, but I was ready for it. I knew there were gonna be adjustment periods. I knew there were gonna be doubts along the journey, but once I accepted that and stopped trying to avoid symptoms at all costs and be terrified of them, it made it so much easier to move forward in recovery. And, for you, you've mentioned a few times in the last few minutes, how much of a role the team played.
Mhm.
The team encouraged me. I saw the team doing this. I saw my team members. How important was it, and how much did it help being on this journey with other people who kind of understand what you're going through? And
A huge amount for me, a huge amount, and my coaches are included that as are included that also because they have gone through this as well. And to know that there was somebody out there who understood all the ups and downs of this and have still made progress and are still waiting there, cheering you on from the sidelines, meant the world to me. And it has really played a large part in my recovery.
mhm, yeah, and we hear it all the time. It's yes, people can recover on their own, and people do all the time. But when you're in the trenches and you feel alone and you're kind of looking for that extra support, it makes such a huge difference to one, have somebody by your side who's gone through this and recovered, but there's a thumbs up. But two, um, have people kind of by your side going through it as well. But I think the most important thing is everybody on these calls and everybody you're around is solution oriented. It's not, hey,
Yeah.
let's all talk about our symptoms and talk about how rough it is so, we can vent. It's, we have this issue coming up. How do we solve it? Oh, here's what to do. XYZ. Oh, well, I have this issue. How do I navigate this? So, I mean, how impactful was it being able to message the coaches? And I know you were working closely with Krista on the check-in calls and getting advice. How much of a difference did that make?
Yeah, there again, she was part of the puzzle to recovery. Uh, and I haven't recovered fully yet, but I'm definitely well on my way. She made a big difference because integrating some of the information that we learn in the program can be challenging at times. And sometimes we may not realize where we're at in our recovery and what we need next. And they're
Mhm,
there to kind of say, oh, hold off for just a moment. Or they may come back and say, we think you're, or I think you're at the point where you need to progress a little bit. And they always gave me that gentle nudge to keep going within reason. And it's the within reason. Yeah. Um, so it made a lot of difference to me. And also, Miguel, there are a lot of people who um, are on other chat rooms that are not the most positive. And I have a neighbor who, after I figured out that what I had was CFS, who had had it for 10 years, basically told me that I would never recover and that she didn't want to join a program because she didn't think she would ever recover and was very negative. And this is a person I respect. And I just kind of said, I just kind of had to back up and say, there again, that may have been your story, but I'm going to give this 100% and more. And this is what I need to do for myself. And so I'm glad I didn't really get caught up in all the websites and the other places that lead one to become stuck mentally and
mhm.
emotionally. And
Yeah,
so I know
it
that
can
there's
be
that out there.
tricky. Yeah, it's like, you come across some of these pages, it's like getting stuck in quicksand, and there's a lot
Mhm.
of fear mongering and negativity and, you know, people searching online for answers. I think everybody goes through that phase,
Yeah.
where they're looking for things, because the first thing you do when you're dealing with stuff that the doctors can't answer is Google. But you don't realize that a lot of this stuff out there, one, it's not true. Two, the people are right who are writing it. I mean, they're not recovered. So you're getting opinions from people who aren't recovered, and they're kind of bashing people who have recovered. So, it's cool to see that you stuck with your gut and went with your intuition, and then look where you are now,
Yeah.
8 or 9 months later. I mean, have you talked to her recently? Has she seen you much
Yeah,
lately?
yeah, she's seen me out walking, and she basically thinks that I'm recovering because I'm younger than her and because this is long COVID. But long COVID was only the last straw on the camel's back. Long COVID only set up the stage for other things um, that took me down into this, like living in fear and living with worries and pushing myself too hard,
Mhm,
which I think a lot of people can identify with at least some of that. Um, but, you know, I just figured I wasn't going to use the energy to argue with her. At some point, I will go speak with her again, but I've talked with her husband because she's a little bit of a challenging person to work with, to
mhm,
talk with. And I've told him that I think it would benefit her, but that's entirely up to her because I have chatted with her through texts.
mhm,
Um, and it's kind of up to her. The next time I see her, I will say what I've brought up the program before with her, and it's not off the table as far as I'm concerned, but it'll be up
mhm.
to her to say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, someone has to be willing to do the work, because it's also not easy, and you have to be fully bought in for it to work, and talking about age, you know did it ever cross your mind that you were too old to turn this around? Because a lot of people in their 60s, they
Mhm.
don't think they could turn it around, and they think, you get
Yeah.
past a certain age, it's just you don't have enough energy for it. But what was your mindset around it at first when you were bedridden at 65?
Yeah, and it's like, why the heck am I this way now? It's like, why could I this have happened when I was younger and I could, deal with this easier. But it's not up to us all is to decide when we're going to go through something tough. And I at first thought that you would, or the other program members might be doing a little cherry picking, and it's like only going to pick the young, healthy people who have the most chance of recovery. But I don't necessarily think it's age. I think it's, well, maybe part of it is stubbornness, because I know I have some of that. Um, but I really believe that what's taught in this program and the support you receive in this program can help anyone. I do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, we've seen it, you've seen it and experienced it firsthand with all the progress that you've made. What was your first biggest win that was like mind blowing and it really kind of sealed the deal that, hey, I'm on the right track? And you almost knew, like, okay, I'm going to recover. 100%, it's inevitable. This is proof I'm moving in the right direction. Was it the piano win or
The first one, funny enough, was being able to stand up and take a shower.
ah,
Stand up, just to stand up for, 20, 30 minutes, fully stand up, take my shower. And the second was getting to my piano and being able to play again was amazing, just amazing for me. That made my soul just soar. It just made
yeah,
me so incredibly happy,
I
incredibly
remember
happy.
that.
I knew it was only the beginning.
I remember that because I remember, going back to the beginning of of you working with us. It was about 4 or 5 weeks in. You were still in a really thick flare up, and we
Mhm.
actually got on a call because I remember you asking me. You said, "Hey, do you really think I can recover? Like, you think I'll come out of this AP?" Because at that point, even being on the Zoom call was difficult for you and very
Mhm.
emotional. And I remember telling you, "You got this, Karen. Just gotta tough it out. Stick to the principles. Respond as best as you can. I promise this will go away and it will get better." And a couple months later, you're showering again. And I remember you posted the piano win
Mhm.
specifically. I remember it because the coaches, we have a chat and we threw that win in there. We said, "Hey guys, look at the wins channel. Karen's playing the piano." And we were all just so happy for you because I know
Yeah.
that's one of the things you initially said on your application call as well. You'd love to get back to playing music again and also
Right.
riding your e-bike, which you're
Mhm.
doing right
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
So it's super cool to see. After those wins you had, what was it like after that? Did you gain a bunch of momentum or were you still in this
You know,
adjustment period?
still just was climbing slowly, slowly but surely. And another thing I allowed myself to do, even though I was so eager to be out of the house and so eager to have my life back, I still took time off to rest at times and to allow myself that opportunity not to push, push, push for recovery. Um, and I think that also made a difference in that I was being kinder to myself. So I plugged away with it, plugged away at it, just step by step, just kept going and gave myself the rest when I needed it.
Mhm. And for people watching this right now, I'm sure they picked up some golden nuggets, but I always like I always like to ask people, what do you think were some of the biggest things that helped that you did? You mentioned one earlier, which is, you know, affirmations, telling yourself, "I'm brave, I'm strong, I could do this." What are some other things that really helped have those mind shifts? Is it implementing the golden rule of recovery or responding well? Like, what do you
Mhm.
think really, really moved the needle for you if you had to narrow it down?
I think having the coaches there for me whenever I felt like I was faltering, And I think telling myself that I would never give up on myself, I even wrote that on a piece of paper and stuck it on my lampshade. I will not give up on myself. And also, some of the things with when people can, and we talked about this, a number of the people in the program have talked about the benefits of creativity. And for me, tapping into some of the creative things, like we write stories about what we would like our life to be in great detail. And I'm hoping to live out one of those this summer for a picnic on the beach. And I think it'll be maybe even sooner than summer.
Hmm.
But the creative, having an access to creativity for me was a major player in it. If I could get down to my room and just play with my arts and crafts, to play music on the piano, to read a book, um, those kind of things for me were really helpful. Uh, and I think for me, always, this is going to sound strange, but this is forward, something that's been referred to in the program as forward thinking. I was always thinking of what I would like to achieve next. Okay, let's say I've made it to this point. What's the next step? I'm not just going to sit here and rest after I've been able to stand up and shower. I want to stand up in the kitchen for a while. I didn't rest my thoughts of recovery. Um, I didn't rest in terms of mentally thinking, what do I want to do yet next? I'm looking out the window saying, I'm going to make it to that place over there where we do the hikes. I'm going to make it over to that state park and I'm going to do a hike one of these days. I'm going to make it to walk over on Kickett Point, which is a little peninsula close to us. I never gave up thinking about what can I do next that's just the next step in my recovery. I think I've been doing that all along, and not looking forward and not looking past. And I think that is a change, a mindset change as well. For
Hmm.
I don't care about what happened in the past. I am not going to go back to running myself in the ground. I'm not going to compare myself to others. I'm not going to think poorly of others. I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to let it go because I need to focus on me.
I love that. I love that forward thinking. I'm the
Mhm.
same way, I used to be the kind of person who, especially during recovery, thinking back to what did I do yesterday to make me feel the way I do today? Why am I flaring up? What did I do last week? What did I do a month ago or a couple of years ago? What could I have done differently? And it's okay to think about that sometimes, but I was obsessed with it.
Mm,
And I was almost like a prisoner of my past. And it never allowed me to live in the present moment and appreciate what's in front of me, but also get excited for the future. I felt like I was always trying to fix things, fix my life, so I could never really relax. So the Miguel prior to recovery and during recovery is so different from the Miguel after recovery. And you're just getting to that point where you're reintegrating back into life. You're getting ready to, go on this picnic trip, riding your e-bike, and this was impossible to do a year ago, right?
oh yeah,
Or less than
yeah.
impossible. Even sitting up was a
Even thinking about being on a bicycle was just too challenging. My mind wouldn't handle it. Even thinking about walking outside, my mind wouldn't handle it.
oh yeah.
So
So a lot has changed. So for you, what would you say is different today than a year ago or when you were
a year
at your
ago.
lowest point? And there's so many different things, but maybe let's start off physically. What are the biggest differences physically from a year ago to today?
Okay, so physically, because I'm thinking the mind, I'm thinking the mind part of physicality. Um, from not being able to do anything except get up and use the bedside commode
Yeah,
to progressing to walking 4 miles is um,
makes you speechless.
yeah, I'm just kind of speechless here. It's been a lot of hard work
Yeah.
to make it physically that far, but I think without changing my mental outlook, I might not have gotten there because in the past, I have not always claimed my wins, I guess, as you'll say. I haven't always claimed my wins. I haven't always celebrated my ability to do things. I've just worked and kept working and working, working. And now I think that if I don't, if I'm not able to get out and walk that day, that's okay. I'm not so hard driven, I guess. I allow myself those moments to say, I'm doing a good job. Good job, Karen. Pat myself
Mhm.
on the back, which I never used to do.
Mhm.
Um, I give myself the opportunity to say, hey, if it doesn't happen today, we'll try it tomorrow. If I don't get those flowers planted today, which I may not, Miguel, but I will, then I say, okay, then I'll do it another time. And I think making those mental changes are equally as important as getting up and being able to walk around my house. Those
Absolutely.
mental changes have to go along with the physical.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I would say it's even more important because as you have these mental changes and even emotional changes, like you're able to handle your emotions better and calm your anxieties and fears and not go on this downward spiral anymore, that will translate into physical wins. The only thing is you don't see it right away. Like you'll have the mental changes first, and then secondary to that, that's when you'll feel an increase in capacity and your ability to do different things. So, how different is you just touch on some of it, but what other ways is your mindset and even just your perspective on life different now than it was a year ago?
Okay. Um, well, I think what it is that I'm feeling a lot more confidence in myself than I ever used to. And I would let small things really wind me up. And now there's often times when I can sit there and say, do I really want to go down that pathway of thinking? No, I don't. Do I want to let what somebody says bother me? No, I don't really. Am I going to worry about what somebody thinks of me? And I have a little explanation here behind this one, or I have a little example. So just a couple of days ago, I was thinking that it was time for me to go back to the session because I play Irish music. And part of me started that little thought process in the brain that went, oh no, you can't go. What if they don't like you? What if there are new people there and they don't like how you play? And this little fear voice came up, and I'm just like, no, no, that is my place. That I love playing that music. I don't care what those people are going to think of me. I'm going because that's my happy place. And that won't matter. What matters is that I'm there with the people that I know who support me also. But I'm there and I don't care if anybody doesn't particularly like how I play a certain tune. I'm strong enough to do that without any fear. And I played for close to 2 hours.
Wow,
A long time. That's a
that's
long
amazing. Yeah,
time.
what instrument was it?
It's the accordion. So
Accordion.
not everybody likes that. But it doesn't matter. I play well, and the people that I know that have been there a while all know me and accept me. And if anybody chooses not to, that's not something for me to worry about anymore. I don't have to worry about that.
Mhm.
I just show up prepared, and there I am.
Yeah, and essentially, it's almost like, you're able to recognize not literally, but it's like the devil and the angel on your shoulder, the good voice and the bad voice, the one that puts fear and doubt, and it sprinkles that into your mind, but then you have you you're able to recognize, no, that's just fear setting in. It's irrational fear. That's my survival brain trying to keep me safe from something, from some danger that's not even there. So, you're able to recognize those things and you get much, much better at identifying those things, being
Mhm.
aware of it as you move on in recovery. And it's one of those things where the skills you learn in recovery kind of translate to life, right?
Yeah.
Because you learn to identify your fear around symptoms and the downward spirals. You get so good at identifying that fear part of your brain
Mhm.
activating, you're able to apply that to different areas of your life, you know? So for people watching this right now who may be in a place where you were last year, they're bedridden, getting a spoon fed, can't shower, and maybe they're in their 60s as well,
Mhm.
but they have hope. They wouldn't be watching this video right now if they didn't have hope. What's a message you want to send to them? And you said a lot of stuff on this call, but what would you like to tell them?
What I'd like to tell you out there, if anybody's listening to this and you're older and you think you can't do it, you absolutely can do this. You are strong enough. Even if you don't believe you are, I want you to reach really deep into the core of your being and know. And I'm just not just one person. There's been plenty of others my age that have been in the program. You can do this. Do this for yourself. Do this for yourself, nobody else. Give yourself this opportunity. It will make a huge difference, a huge difference.
Absolutely. And there's it's never too late to turn it around. I
That's
mean, we
right.
have we have someone in their 70s making massive progress in the program. So whether someone's 20 or
Mhm.
70 or 50 or 40, you know, age is just a number when it comes to CFS.
Yeah.
Um, and the nervous system is a nervous system. You follow the principles and the
Mhm.
frameworks and apply it, you're
Right.
going to fix the nervous system. You're going to turn things around, and you're walking proof of that,
Yeah,
which is
I am.
so cool to see, and it's so exciting to see people starting to reintegrate back into life, seeing the wins, seeing the stories. But for you, what are you looking forward to coming up next? Like this year, what kind of big goals do you have or
Oh,
things you have on the bucket
yeah.
list?
Um, One of my delights going through this program was the support also given to me by a group of RVers, travelers like Carl and I are. And they've been sending me cards um, wishing my recovery to happen as soon as it can. But we will be meeting with some of the people that we travel with this fall, and I know that I will be ready to go. We're gonna meet them down in Utah, and I'll get to see more of uh, the incredible views, the incredible places to see in Utah, and hopefully by next spring, um, we might be able to make a trip over to Europe. So travel is in my future. That's something that's high, high, high value. And uh, that includes going down and seeing my brother back home and seeing other friends in California and possibly a teammate if she's still there.
Mhm.
So those are some of my goals.
I love that. And it's so cool because I have all the notes up from your initial screening call with Rochelle,
Mhm.
uh, you know, not even a year ago. And this is when you were mostly bedbound. You're about to hire a caregiver. Your
Yeah.
husband was doing everything for you. And one of the goals you had on there, your vision for the future was you'd like to be able to travel in your RV again with
Hmm.
your husband and friends and go to Utah. That's literally what you wrote. Also, play music and ride your e-bikes, just go outdoors. And
Yeah.
one of the things you said specifically was, you had the motivation to help others
Hmm.
in some way, despite being a retired nurse
Yeah.
for quite a while. And that's what you're doing right now. So it's so cool to see things come full circle. And it wasn't easy getting here. I've seen the fight you had with CFS, and you're beating it. You're beating it at 66 years old, and
Yeah.
you're gonna
The
be
other
thriving.
thing too, Miguel, that I told myself I was going to do, and I've already done it with one physician. I have actually two docs. One is my regular doc, and one is a functional medicine doc who's been with me throughout this program. Is um, I want to make them aware, and have been making them aware, that this program is working for me, and I'll be sending them copies of your book, which I've ordered a couple of copies. And I want to, my next one of my next goals with one of these physicians is to actually go see the functional medicine doc down in Seattle. I'll drive myself. I'll take your book with me
Mhm.
and show her that there's proof that this works. The other one I will probably see this summer so that he can see the difference a year has made, and take the other copy of that book and present it to him and say, please don't tell people that, that there's no cure for this. Please don't tell them that there's no way they can get a substantial amount of recovery, because there is a way. You've got the way. Um, and I feel like any opportunity I get, I'll be speaking about this program and what it entails, and the fact that you can recover from this, that it's not just a one-way street, and it's not just a negative place to be mentally or physically, that you can recover, because I will recover. I'm already recovering.
Absolutely. And it's so amazing to hear that and truly going above and beyond to really just spread the word and be that
Mhm,
beacon of hope. And, you going to these doctors, who knows? Like, imagine all the people they see and they
mhm,
say, sorry, you can't recover. But well, now they're going to be giving them potential, or not potential, giving them solutions to fixing this. So, I had it come up on a call recently. There's a lot of people like you and another individual or this neighbor, you'll try to help people, but some people are not ready to hear that message. And I think the best way we can help people is to help ourselves and be that example. And
mhm.
you putting all this work into yourself and your health, now this is the ultimate proof. It's the ultimate way to help people because they see that you've gone through it and you've been
Right.
through it and came out the other side stronger. You
Mhm.
mentioned earlier, even before you got sick, you weren't walking 4 miles at a time,
No.
right?
And I had somebody at the Irish session who came, one of my cohorts there, one of my fellow musicians, who had spoken about a friend of hers daughter who was having difficulty, and to me it sounded classic CFS.
Mhm.
And I gave her the information and about the program, and I also said I'd be happy at any time to talk with her. So those of us going through the program, we still live our lives. We're still getting out there. We still talk to people. At some stage you'll be out of your house if you're not already. And there will be people that will ask about this program, and hopefully we'll get this spread, and it won't be um, something that feels like you only stumble on it accidentally. It will become much better known, hopefully in the medical community, and then and in the general populace as well, is what we hope, because it's obvious you don't want anybody else to suffer. You've made so much stuff available for free on YouTube. It's amazing. None of us who've gone through this want anybody to suffer with this. None of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of our big goals too, is just we're doing studies, we're doing surveys, we're
Mhm.
collecting the data to present it to medical bodies.
Yeah.
So, you know, right now, the idea in 2024, the notion online is that, very low percentage chance of recovery. That's the common theme online, but
Yeah.
we're looking to turn that around. And I
Hmm.
think at some point it's going to be the norm to actually recover. And it's going to be the full expectation and majority that, oh, you got CFS? Oh, you can recover from that in a year, like even max 2 years. You could
Hmm.
absolutely recover from that. And I think it'll be no different from recovering from some other illnesses that you can
Hmm.
turn around. So,
And if the doctors realize that there is hope for patients who come to them that they don't seem to know what to tell them. They focus on only symptoms. They'll have a huge, a huge tool to offer their patients for help in overcoming this.
Absolutely. And, my last question for you is, it's an interesting question, but where do you think you'd be if you never started working with us? I mean, you would have done other programs, but if you never found some kind of outside help, where do you think you'd be?
I think I'd be totally depressed and still stuck in my bed. I feared for myself physically, because I lost so much weight over it. I think I would be in extremely poor health right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I gave myself the gift of your program, Miguel. It's made all the
Yeah.
difference in my life.
Oh yeah. And you came in, you worked hard at it, and you followed the principles, followed the game plan, and it's so cool to see you thriving. And sometimes it's just that one big decision that makes all the difference, right? That was like a fork in your road that
Hmm.
took you down a whole different path. I'm just so glad I popped up in your YouTube kind of news feed, which
Sometimes,
changed everything.
sometimes it's not just happenstance. Sometimes things happen for a reason. So
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think
that's all I'll
people
say.
people watching this right now, there's a reason you guys are watching this far into this video, which is 55 minutes long. If I think the reason you're still watching is you're seeing someone defying
Mhm,
pretty much what the medical community says is impossible. You're seeing a 66-year-old lady who was bedridden a year ago,
mhm.
very non-functional, getting her life back, really starting to thrive. And I could hear that positivity and excitement for life in your voice, excited for the future.
Yeah,
Um, at this age, there's just so much more life to live. And that's exactly what a thriver does and exactly how a thriver thinks. So you embody all of the characteristics of a thriver. We're so proud of you, Karen.
well,
And
thank you.
the coaches, some of your wins, they've had tears in their eyes talking about it. They're just so proud of you. So keep it up.
To
And
anyone that thinks I can't do it, please, please, please give yourself that opportunity. Please give yourself that opportunity.
yeah, give yourself the opportunity.
Yeah.
You can turn it around. So, Karen, thank you so much. This chat flew by, but you know, you're gonna do so much stuff in the next handful of months here. I can't wait to hear about it. And I would love to reconnect even a handful of months down the road and see how much better you are. You know,
Okay.
towards the end of the year or in the future, because this is just the start of a new chapter in your life. There's so many more exciting things that are going to happen, and it would be awesome to share that with people. Um,
Right.
just to show people you can sustain a recovery and really not go backwards. It's not
Mhm.
just a one-time thing. You can continue getting better. So for people watching this right now, if you guys are watching this, Karen shared so many golden nuggets here. And even at her age, she is crushing it. She embodies a thriver. And if any of this inspired you, comment down below. What was your biggest takeaway? Was it something she said about the mindset? Is it one of the principles she shared? What was the biggest takeaway from you? And what is the most inspiring thing, right? And if you did need some help on your recovery, we love seeing stories just like this and seeing people go from bedridden and surviving to truly thriving, living their best life. If you needed help with this is what we specialize in. You can click the link down below, apply for the program, see if you're a good fit. And if you are a good fit, we would love, to help you go from surviving to thriving, just like Karen has. So hope you guys enjoy this video. Always remember that you are a thriver and you are just one mind shift away from living a life with thriving health. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Karen, thank you so much, and keep on crushing it. Keep on thriving.
Thank you forever, Miguel. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take it easy.